In the late 1990s, Nintendo dominated handheld gaming. The Game Boy, launched in 1989, had outlasted countless rivals and evolved through versions like Game Boy Pocket and Game Boy Color, becoming an icon of the era. But its triumph wasn't simply luck. It was the result of a singular philosophy, championed by one man, Gunpei Yokoi. The engineer who invented the D-pad, created the prolific Game & Watch series, and designed the Game Boy itself. His vision redefined handheld gaming forever. Yet after the failure of his ambitious but ill-fated attempt at portable 3D, the Virtual Boy, Yokoi stepped away from Nintendo and sought a new challenge. What followed was another handheld, developed under his own company in collaboration with Bandai. A bold, quirky system called the Wonderswan. This is the story of that console and the man whose ideas shaped an entire industry. Gunpei Yokoi was born on September 10, 1941 in Kyoto, Japan, a country still locked in the bitter conflict of World War II. He grew up during Japan's post-war reconstruction, an era defined by scarcity, repair, and reuse. From a young age, Yokoi displayed a curious mind that leaned towards tinkering and invention. As a child, Yokoi didn't just play with toys. He took them apart, modified them, and built his own creations, from homemade radios to intricate mechanical gadgets. These early experiments hinted at the inventive spirit that would define his career. He pursued this fascination academically by studying electronics at the Doshisha University, graduating with a degree that equipped him with technical knowledge, but also the ability to think creatively about how technology could be applied in new and engaging ways. In 1965, fresh out of university, Yokoi began what would become a 31-year career with Nintendo, but not in games. Nintendo at the time was a small company, known mostly for Hanafuda playing cards. Yokoi's first job was as a maintenance engineer, fixing machines on the assembly line that printed and packaged cards. His curious mind didn't stay idle during downtime. While performing his duties, Yokoi built toys and gadgets in his spare time. One of these was a simple extendable arm toy he designed to amuse himself during the long hours on the factory floor. This device unexpectedly changed his life. When Nintendo's president, Hiroshi Yamauchi, happened to visit the factory in 1966, he noticed Yokoi's creation and immediately saw commercial potential. He told Yokoi to turn it into a real product for the upcoming holiday season. The result was the Ultra Hand, a clever extending toy that became a huge hit in Japan, selling over 1 million units, earning Yokoi a position in Nintendo's product development division. Yokoi didn't stop there though. Over the next decade, he designed a quirky mix of toys, from the Chiritori, a miniature remote-controlled vacuum cleaner, to the Ultra Machine, a baseball throwing toy, and even a playful love tester, a device intended to measure the chemistry between couples. By the mid-1970s, Nintendo shifted its focus from mechanical toys into video games, and Yokoi transitioned with the company. He became a founding member of Nintendo's Research and Development 1 team, also called R&D 1, a multidisciplinary unit responsible for an array of hardware, innovations, and software franchises. This is also where Yokoi's role as a mentor and leader shines. He worked closely with young designers like Shigeru Miyamoto, helping guide early projects, giving structure to game creation at a time when the industry was new territory for almost everyone involved. It was R&D 1 that would go on to produce some of Nintendo's most enduring early games, including Donkey Kong, which Yokoi supervised and approved for production, and titles like Metroid, Kid Icarus, and Mario Bros. That grew into global franchises. One of Yokoi's most lasting contributions was not a device, but a design philosophy. Kareta Gijutsu no Suihei Shiko, commonly translated as lateral thinking with withered technology. Yokoi believed that gameplay and experience mattered more than raw specs. He thought that cutting-edge technology could often get in the way of creativity and usability. This approach influenced Nintendo's hardware strategy for decades, and continued to be felt in systems like the Wii and Nintendo Switch, which prioritize innovative play over technical power. In 1980, Yokoi's philosophy produced one of his earliest and most influential creations, the Game & Watch series. The inspiration came during a train ride on the Shinkansen bullet train, where Yokoi noticed a bored businessman idly tapping the buttons on his calculator to pass the time. He envisioned a compact gadget that combined a watch with a simple electronic game, hence the name Game & Watch. These devices used liquid crystal displays, the same cheap screens found in calculators, allowing for small, light, inexpensive gaming units that were perfect for playing on the go. The series was a massive success, selling millions of units worldwide, introducing features that would become gaming staples, most notably the cross-shaped D-pad, an ergonomic control standard still used in game controllers today. By 1989, Yokoi and his team at R&D 1 had leveraged everything they learned into a device that would change gaming forever: the Game Boy. At a time when pressure was on for consoles to constantly push the envelope, maximizing technical capabilities in any way that they could, Yokoi made a bold choice. Go with tried and true technology. A monochrome LCD screen and simple 8-bit hardware, ensuring long battery life, low cost, and durability. The Game Boy didn't aim to be the most powerful, it aimed to be the most playable. Its cartridges allowed interchangeable games, and software, like Tetris and Super Mario Land, turned it from a niche gadget into a global phenomenon. Over its lifetime, including iterations like the Game Boy Pocket and the Game Boy Color, the platform sold over 118 million units worldwide, one of the best-selling gaming systems of all time. After years of runaway success with portable gaming, Nintendo turned its gaze towards stereoscopic 3D graphics in the mid-1990s. Yokoi was captivated by this technology, and thus would lead development of the Virtual Boy, a tabletop console that promised 3D visuals using a unique red and black display. The reality was starkly different. The machine's design was awkward to use. Its red monochrome visuals caused eye strain and discomfort, and its limited game library failed to capture the broader market's interests. Retailers struggled to sell it, and critics often cited it as one of Nintendo's most notable commercial failures. Despite its ambition, the Virtual Boy did not fulfill its promise, and by March 1996, it was completely pulled from the market, with disappointing sales and poor consumer reception. That same year, after decades with the company, Yokoi left Nintendo. Common lore among fans has long suggested that Yokoi was forced out of Nintendo because of the Virtual Boy's failure, but the historical record tells a more nuanced story. In interviews conducted around the time of his departure, Yokoi said that after a long career, he wanted creative freedom, outside the constraints of corporate life. He described wanting to pursue his own ideas and innovations, not because he was disgraced, but because he had more to offer beyond Nintendo's structure. After decades with the tech giant, Yokoi wanted to go his own way, and as fate would have it, he wouldn't be going alone. Several of Yokoi's colleagues from Nintendo who had worked under him at R&D 1 chose to go with him. With their help, he would found a new design firm, Coto Laboratory, a venture that would lead to his final and most personal project. When Gunpei Yokoi founded Coto Laboratory in 1996, his vision was to continue exploring the possibilities of portable gaming. Unlike Nintendo, Coto would not handle mass production. Instead, it would operate as an engineering studio, focused on creating innovative concepts and partnering with larger companies for manufacturing and distribution. This approach reflected Yokoi's mindset at the time. He wanted to apply his philosophy without corporate oversight, and above all, he wanted to prove that his ideas could thrive outside of Nintendo's shadow. Opportunities soon emerged. By the mid-1990s, Bandai was already one of Japan's largest merchandising companies, with franchises like Mobile Suit Gundam, Sailor Moon, and the runaway success of Tamagotchi generating enormous revenue. Yet, when it came to video game hardware, Bandai's efforts had been far less successful. Its 1994 CD-based home console, the Playdia, aimed at anime-style interactive software, struggled commercially and failed to attract strong third-party support. Bandai's ambition to break into the console market had not disappeared, but it was clear that a new approach was needed. The rising popularity of handhelds offered that opportunity. Nintendo's Game Boy, after almost 10 years, was still dominating the market, proving that portable gaming had enormous potential, but it also left a gap for fresh, creative competition. Yokoi's availability at this exact moment was more than serendipity. It was destiny. To Bandai, Yokoi was not just a designer. He was the man who had built the most successful handheld in history. A partnership with him offered credibility, a proven philosophy of innovation, and a compelling story. The creator of the Game Boy was about to build something entirely new. Development for the handheld, dubbed Wonderswan, began in early 1997. From the beginning, the project was not about outperforming Nintendo on specifications, but merely sidestepping them. The handheld market in the late 1990s had already shown that technical superiority did not guarantee success. Sega's Game Gear and Atari's Lynx had offered color screens and stronger processors, but they were expensive, bulky, and drained batteries rapidly. Yokoi had already proven with the Game Boy that longevity and affordability mattered more. The Wonderswan would follow that logic. At its core was an NEC V30MZ processor, a 16-bit chip derived from Intel's 8086 architecture. It was not cutting-edge by 1997 standards, but it was stable, inexpensive, and well-documented. Developers could work with it easily, allowing for smooth 2D performances without inflating production costs. The screen resolution, 224 by 144 pixels, was higher than the original Game Boy's 160 by 144 display. The choice of a reflective monochrome LCD, the kind that requires an outside light source, was intentional. Backlit screens consumed power and raised manufacturing expenses. A reflective screen meant clarity under natural light and dramatically extended battery life. And battery life was a defining priority. The Wonderswan delivered between 30 and 40 hours of playtime on just a single AA battery. That decision alone distinguished it from nearly every competitor on the market. It reinforced the idea that this was a machine meant to be carried daily, not rationed. Physically, the console was compact and lightweight. Its internal layout was engineered efficiently to minimize wasted space, but its most distinctive feature was external: the control scheme. The Wonderswan featured two sets of directional buttons, arranged perpendicular to one another. This allowed the entire system to be rotated 90 degrees. Developers could design games to be played vertically or horizontally. Shoot-'em-ups, in particular, benefited from the taller orientation, mimicking the layout of an arcade cabinet. This was not a marketing gimmick. It was a structural design decision that expanded how developers could think about the screen. Internally, the system architecture was built to be approachable for third-party developers. Cartridges were ROM-based and relatively inexpensive to manufacture. Memory configurations varied depending on the needs of the game, and Bandai worked to keep licensing terms competitive in order to attract publishers wary of Nintendo's historically strict policies. By mid-1997, the Wonderswan was nearing completion. Then, everything changed. On October 4th, 1997, Gunpei Yokoi was traveling on the Hokuriku Expressway in Ishikawa Prefecture when he was involved in a minor traffic accident. Yokoi exited the vehicle to check on the other drivers involved and was fatally struck by a passing car. He was only 56 years old. The shock reverberated throughout the Japanese gaming industry. Nintendo publicly expressed condolences. Developers across the industry acknowledged his influence. For many designers, Yokoi had been both a mentor and role model. At Coto Laboratory, the loss was immediate and personal. Leadership of the company passed to Yoshihiro Taki, a former Nintendo engineer who worked closely with Yokoi and had followed him to Coto. Taki assumed responsibility not only for finishing the hardware, but for ensuring that it remained faithful to Yokoi's original vision. The Wonderswan would not be redesigned into something louder or more aggressive. It would be completed as intended. In many ways, it became a project completed in tribute. On March 4th, 1999, the Wonderswan finally arrived in Japanese stores. The launch price was 4,800 yen, or about 45 USD at the time, only about half of the Game Boy Color's launch price of 8,900 yen. This affordability boosted sales on launch. The system released in multiple colors. Translucent cases gave the console a playful, toy-like appeal, reflecting Bandai's marketing sensibility. Early sales were promising. Within months, the Wonderswan began carving out a measurable share of the Japanese handheld market. But its success was not driven purely by hardware. Software partnerships were critical. Bandai moved quickly to secure recognizable developers. Perhaps most significant was Squaresoft. At the time, Square had a complicated relationship with Nintendo following its move to Sony's PlayStation for Final Fantasy VII. Supporting the Wonderswan offered Square a portable outlet outside of Nintendo's ecosystem. Square planned enhanced ports of Final Fantasy I and II, featuring improved sprites and rebalanced mechanics that would be exclusive to the Wonderswan platform. These versions would later become the basis for future remakes. Bandai's own franchises also played a critical role. Gundam titles brought in a steady, dedicated audience. Digimon Adventure became one of the Wonderswan's best-selling titles, attracting younger players who were drawn to the franchise's popularity from television and toys. These early successes demonstrated the importance of aligning software with recognizable intellectual properties, a strategy Bandai had perfected in the toy market. Beyond these marquee names, Bandai cultivated relationships with numerous developers and publishers to create a varied library. Namco contributed arcade-style action and puzzle games. Capcom offered adaptations of its action franchises. And Taito brought shoot-'em-ups that made creative use of the vertical screen orientation. Banpresto leveraged its anime licenses to produce titles. Collectively, these partnerships gave the Wonderswan a catalog that, while not as expansive as Nintendo's, was surprisingly diverse. In a tribute to Yokoi, Bandai released Gunpei, a puzzle game conceived by Coto Laboratory and named after its creator. The game was minimalistic, yet challenging, embodying Yokoi's belief that simple, elegant design could create compelling play experiences. It was a quiet celebration of his life and sensibilities, a game that reflected his core philosophy. By the year 2000, the Wonderswan had captured roughly 8% of Japan's handheld market, a respectable foothold in a landscape overwhelmingly dominated by Nintendo. The platform had gained enough traction to justify expansion, and in December of that year, Bandai released the Wonderswan Color, a thoughtful evolution of Yokoi's original design. The system retained its reflective LCD, a deliberate choice to preserve battery efficiency, but now introduced a full color palette. This allowed developers to experiment with richer visuals, more expressive character designs, and more vibrant worlds, all while maintaining the portability and the long playtimes that had defined the original Wonderswan. 2 years later, Bandai unveiled the Swan Crystal, the final iteration of the Wonderswan line. Its refined TFT LCD improved clarity, response time, and overall visual fidelity, making games feel sharper and more immediate. But by the early 2000s, the handheld landscape had changed. In March 2001, Nintendo launched the Game Boy Advance. Iconic franchises such as Pokémon and Mario continued to dominate, securing Nintendo's stranglehold on the market. For Bandai, despite the Wonderswan's careful design and dedicated audience, breaking into a global market already captured by Nintendo proved impossible. Production of the Wonderswan line officially ended in 2003. Across all its iterations, it sold roughly 3.5 million units, almost entirely in Japan. While this paled in comparison to the Game Boy's staggering figures, it represented a remarkable achievement for a system that was completed with ingenuity rather than brute force. And though it never launched outside Japan, the Wonderswan has earned a cult following among retro gaming enthusiasts. Its dual orientation design, long battery life, and library of unique titles have kept it alive in the hearts of collectors. Today, retro enthusiasts mod and even develop new cartridges for the platform, including flash cartridges that allow homebrew software and translations, extending its life well into the 2020s. Collectors seek rare special editions and games tied to classic series, with certain boxed titles commanding high prices among international fans who discovered the system long after its commercial run. The Wonderswan remains Bandai's most successful console to date. Though they would experiment with other gaming hardware in the years that followed, none approached the same market impact or critical recognition as the Wonderswan. In retrospect, the system's relative success wasn't about competing with Nintendo globally. It was about creating a product that reflected both Bandai's ambitions and Yokoi's vision to be clever, accessible, and designed to bring joy. Gunpei Yokoi devoted his life to creating playful, thoughtful technology that delighted millions. From the mechanical toys that first captured imaginations, to the Game & Watch, the Game Boy, and even ambitious experiments like the Virtual Boy, his vision reshaped the world of gaming. Even in his final project, the Wonderswan, Yokoi poured his heart into it, producing a console that was inventive and full of character. A testament to a lifetime spent thinking not just about what technology could do, but what it could make people feel. And though he never lived to see it in players' hands, the Wonderswan stands as a quiet, elegant tribute to his creativity. Gunpei Yokoi may have left us, but his imagination still lives, flickering in every glowing screen, echoing in the laughter of players, and resting quietly in the warm nostalgia of those who grew up with his creations. In that soft, enduring glow, we feel him still. And in that feeling, we know that true genius doesn't fade. It plays on forever.